Action. Action, Jackson, Jessica. Good afternoon. It's Wednesday. It's Wisdom Wednesday. Today looks a little bit different. We have had several of our peeps are out. The plague may or may not be going around Cumberland County. We're not sure.
It is going around.
It is. So we're safe so far. But next week, we don't know. So right now we are talking to you here. We also have the computer open behind us, so I'll be checking to see if anybody comments. We're going to do a little bit different of a format today, because, first let me say this. Sorry, backtrack. I have notes. We have reopened our YouTube channel. Some of you that have been following Recovering Crossville for a long time remember a few years ago we started a YouTube channel. We ended up with 70 subscribers. We have started posting our Wisdom Wednesdays to our YouTube channel. It's under Recovering Crossville. Go look it up, subscribe. We have bigger things coming, and we would love to have you join us there. Everybody's not a Facebooker. My husband doesn't have Facebook, so now he can join us. So you're welcome, Frank. And also, if you do have Facebook, which you must, or you wouldn't be watching this, then make sure to check out our event announcement. So we're going to be doing our first ever fundraiser in April. So Friday night, April the 24th, we're going to be having a benefit dinner. It is called Dinner for Diamonds. And diamonds references all kinds of things, not just the shiny stones, although those may be my favorite. So it's going to be a really good night. We're going to have speakers. We're going to have silent auctions. We have already had people donating things. It's just going to be a really good time. It's going to be good fellowship. It's going to give everybody a chance to see what's going on in the community and to be a part of what we're doing. And things are happening big and they're happening fast. So we want you to come with us. Now, back to Wisdom Wednesday. So we've been kind of tossing this around for a little while. It's one of the topics that we had on our first sheet of paper. And we're going to talk about a scripture today that it's very often misunderstood. More times than not, I think it's misunderstood. And so it's going to be 2 Corinthians 12:9. And it reads, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." So we're going to talk about 4 different things today. We are going to talk about why weakness is actually normal in recovery. We are going to talk about what happens when we turn our sobriety into a performance. We're going to have a story that might sound familiar. And we're also going to talk about why asking for help is one of the holiest things that you can do. So let's go. We're interviewing Dr. K. This is really what this is. No pressure. Okay.
It's not really an interview. Which is what makes it different today. We just have some talking points that we want to go through. And relate it back to scripture, because so many times people will throw scripture verses at obviously everything in life, but even toward recovery, and it's so misused, it's misplaced. And so we chose to talk about some scripture topics as far as it's related and how it applies to recovery.
I'm asking you a question.
So how do we
normalize weakness in recovery? Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so listen.
So we've made some notes just because it's a little bit different, and we want to make sure that we get the point across, and that that you get the full idea behind the 4 points that we have to talk about.
Because what we don't want to do is misrepresent the role that God plays in recovery, which is up here. Like, that none of this is doable without him. So we really want to make sure that we get this right. We want to make sure that we communicate it in such a way that it's easy to understand. So bear with us. You're going to love it. So how, Dr. K, can we normalize weakness in recovery?
Well, I think we often hear, for those that are in recovery, that weakness means failure. And so if you're struggling in your recovery, no matter whether it started today or it started 20 years ago or anywhere in between, does struggling mean that you're failing? Well, no, that it doesn't. We live in a world that treats recovery kind of like a staircase. It's always going up. It's always getting better. It's always moving forward. And when you slip, or when cravings come back, or when you wake up at 2 a.m. and the darkness feels thick, we think we've fallen off the stairs entirely. And that's not the case. Paul didn't write that verse from a mountaintop. Paul wrote that verse from the middle of his own suffering. He had begged God 3 times to remove what he called a thorn. 3 times. And God's answer wasn't, okay, I'll fix it. God's answer was, my grace is enough. And my power shows up best in places where you have nothing left. So that's the voice of surrender, right? So this isn't a verse about weakness being cute or manageable. It's a verse about being weak, being real, being stubborn, and ongoing. And God will meet you there anyway.
Yep.
So in recovery, the goal is never to become someone who doesn't need anything. The goal is to become someone honest enough to admit what they need and brave enough to ask for it. We really don't believe God's grace is sufficient until we believe we are insufficient. So your struggle's not a sign that your faith is broken. It's not evidence that your recovery isn't real. It's simply proof that you're human and that you're in the exact place where grace does its best work.
And I think, and I might be wrong, but earlier whenever we were talking about this, and I kind of off the cuff, people say, God will never give you anything more than you can handle. And that's just not real. That's not in scripture. It's not, it sounds good, but at the end of the day, we need him, and it's okay that we need him. And so, yes, absolutely, you will consistently face things that you cannot handle on your own. But that's the point. That is when his power is made perfect in your weakness. So yeah, I think it's just one of those isms that you hear and you just think that that's really a thing. But it's not. It doesn't say that anywhere in the Bible. Let's talk about how dangerous it is to operate in performance-based sobriety.
So performance-based sobriety, it's exhausting. And it can be deadly. Performance-based sobriety is when we tie our worth to our clean date. And we hear that so often. What's your clean date? What's your clean date? What's your clean date? And I think meetings are super important. But clean date has and rightfully so, such a weighted value that it can be dangerous because your worth is not tied to that date. We can only feel okay about ourselves on the days that we're winning. When we show up to meetings or to church or to family dinners and put on a version of ourselves that has it all together because we're terrified of what people will think if they see the real one. It looks like helping everyone else while you are quietly drowning. It looks like posting the milestone but hiding the midnight. It looks like saying, I'm good, when someone else asks, because I'm good is the only acceptable answer. When we build our recovery on performance, we build it on something that will eventually crack. because no one can perform forever. And when the performance slips, and it will, the shame that follows can be more dangerous than the original wound. Paul talks about people who boasted in their own strength, their own credentials, their own performance. And he says, no, I'm going to boast in my weakness, because that's where the power actually lives.
Tori said, preach.
Preach.
We be preaching.
We be preaching.
And you know, if you have any, if you've had any dealings at all with Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, the rooms, if you've had any experience in the rooms, yeah, they celebrate milestones, but at the end of the day, the foundation of that whole thing is just for today. So whether you have 30 years that you haven't picked up, 10 years, 2 years, 2 days, 1 day, 20 minutes, whatever, the only thing, none of us, we wake up every day on an even playing field, because I didn't get high today. So the fact that I didn't get high today, it makes me no better than somebody who didn't get high today, but they did get high yesterday. Like it doesn't matter. God's mercy is new every day, and we get a new chance every day to wake up and live this life. And so, I mean, yeah, it's nice to be celebrated or whatever, but at the same time, like, none of us are better than anybody else. You know, we all have just not picked up today. So what more could you ask for?
True.
Do you have any personal or observed examples of the dangers that can come?
Yeah, so I'm going to share something that I personally have observed. I've seen in different forms, in different people, enough times that I think it's worth naming. So there's a person, and let's just call them someone I've sat across from, who had a stretch of time that they were proud of. Months of hard work, real change, and a community that looked up to them. And in the middle of that, something shifted. Life got hard. Old thoughts crept back in. The cravings didn't stop. They didn't disappear the way they were supposed to. Instead of telling anyone, they got quieter. They kept showing up to meetings, to church, to family dinners, but they stopped talking. They smiled when they needed to. They gave the right answers, because by that point, their story had become something other people leaned on. And they didn't know how to say, I'm not okay right now. They didn't reach out, not because people wouldn't have helped, because they would have, but because somewhere along the way, they learned that needing help was the same as being a failure. I think a lot of us know that person. Some of us are that person. What I wish they had known, and what I want you to know, is that the moment they went quiet was exactly the moment they needed to be the loudest. Not about having answers, just about being honest. Isolation is not humility. Silence is not strength. And pretending you're fine is not faith.
That was a microphone. No, that's very true. It's very powerful. I witnessed several years ago, and it was somebody that I didn't know personally, but someone that I had seen very much in the public eye, very much a come up story, just a beautiful testimony. And then I started seeing this person getting arrested and their mugshot on mobile patrol, and stories about them on Facebook and all of the things. And your first inclination is like, oh man, what happened? But at the same time, being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes is a beautiful gift. And I encourage you, if you have a hard time seeing someone else's perspective, dive into that, because that's a big deal if you can kind of put yourself where someone else might be. And even, I could relate to that story, because so many times, and that goes back to that performance base, so many times when people are doing well, you've got people patting you on the back and telling you, I'm so proud of you, and you're doing such a great job, and you're such an inspiration, and you've got such a powerful story. And all of those things are true. But at the same time, when people hype you up like that, and elevate you as a person over, they elevate your story over his glory, and it's so easy to get sucked into that. And when you're in that position, like, how do you ask for help? So I would, I'm very fortunate, and, Tori's not here and Joanne's not here, but I feel like I can also speak for them. And this is not, she's going to get real embarrassed, so I'm going to pretend like she's not here. We are very blessed that we have, we're under the leadership of someone that we trust wholeheartedly. Somebody that always has their door open. She listens to us. She does not judge us. She might tell us about ourselves, but she's nice about it, mostly. But no, if you don't have somebody like that, if you're watching this and you don't have somebody like that, find someone like that, because it is so important to have someone that you can be vulnerable with. And even if you have to have 2 or 3 of those people, if you have somebody that I really struggled with my temper today, so I need to go talk to this person. Or I really struggled with cravings today, so I need to talk to this person. Or, I struggled with my self-worth today, so I need to talk to this person. Get some people around you. Like, it's very, very important that you have people that you can lean on, because it ain't no joke out here. Like, people are out here struggling every day. People are still dying. People are still relapsing. People are still going back to jail. And it's just, we're not an army. I am not an army. I'm not, I don't put all my stuff out there all over the place, but I have really hard days. I have days that I have to call Dr. K and I'm like, hey, I'm not okay today. I need to stay home. And that's okay. That's a real thing. There is no shame in all of that. And those are actually the times, that just press into God as much as you can, go to him, cry to him, and take your time to do that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. So this is the last one. How can we reframe, needing help as something that is holy and not something to be ashamed of, something that, to be shameful about?
I think we've touched on it a couple of times so far, but asking for help is not a sign that your recovery has failed. I think it's important to remember that don't let the weight of the world's celebration of your recovery prevent you from being vulnerable and having that safe place where you can be transparent. It's not a sign that your recovery, let me rephrase that. So asking for help is not a sign that your recovery has failed. Asking for help is a sign that your recovery is working.
Yep.
You have that conviction. You have that willingness to be vulnerable and to reach out. Think about Paul, what he's actually saying in that verse. He's not saying tough it out and God will be impressed. He's saying when you stop pretending that you can do this alone, that's when God's power actually has room to move. The same is true in recovery. The moment you call a sponsor at midnight, that's holy. The moment you raise your hand in a meeting and say, I'm struggling, that's holy. The moment you walk back through the doors after a relapse, shaking and ashamed, and sit down anyway, that is one of the holiest things I've ever witnessed. Help is not a last resort. Help is the whole design. There's no version of the Christian story or a healthy recovery story where the goal is self-sufficiency. Jesus didn't heal people by telling them to figure it out. He met them where they are in their need. He went to where they were hurting, and he made the asking safe. You're not weak because you need people. You're not a failure because this is hard. You're not beyond grace because you've been here before. You're exactly the person this verse is written for.
It's good. Who's here? What up, Tony?
Tony.
Woo! Long time no see, Tony. So we're gonna close out with we probably have exceeded our Facebook Live time, but it's fine. This will be on your story in 47 reels. We just want to, just let everybody know, like, wherever you're at today, whether you're in a good season, a hard season, a season that you can't really put a name to yet, hold on to the last part of that verse, the middle part, where God tells us, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Your weakness is not the end of your story. It might just be where the story gets real. So if you're in a hard place right now, reach out to someone. Reach out to a sponsor if you have one. Reach out to a counselor, a friend, anybody. Message us. There's a message button somewhere on this page. It really matters. Like, asking for help matters because you matter. We all matter. We all have a hard time. Nobody in here is perfect. Trust me.
Right.
Especially me. So, if you need prayer, as always, leave a heart in the comments. We will pray for you. You don't have to tell us what you need prayer for. We'll pray for you anyway because we love you. So, we will be back next week. I think we're starting, actually this was week 1 of our first 12-week series that we're going to do. Don't forget, please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. We need X amount of subscribers before we can move on to the next phase. We want to start doing podcasts, etc., etc. So, okay. We love you.
Thanks.
Finish spot. Look, you get to see me red. Bye. No? Finish. Finish.